Welcome to Master Manual, a practical guide for DMs, GMs, and just wanna BMs and other folks. This is a podcast where we answer questions and talk about role-playing games such as Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, but mostly from a DM perspective. Ideally, other guys will, or, whatever, peeps can enjoy it.
The whole
Non-peeps.
Yeah.
Anything that has, any...
Oh my God.
I don't even want to say consciousness, because let's not even...
Yeah, I just realized I had the thought, podcast for dogs. I was like, has anyone done a podcast for dogs? And I was like, that's stupid.
No, well, it's not stupid.
Okay. By the way, what's your name? Sorry.
No. I'm Cohen.
No.
Haha, we're confusing. Sorry, no. My name is Spencer Crittenden. I do a podcast called Harmontown occasionally, and I'm sitting here with my buddy.
Hey, I'm Cohen Edenfield. I'm a game designer.
And we're just two tired gentlemen who are gonna opine on
You're the
games.
You're the dungeon master on that podcast, right?
I'm one of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're the yeah, I mean, there's a lot of teams in the NFL, but you're the I don't know enough to complete that sentence.
Yeah. There are a lot of teams in the NFL, and let's leave it at that.
Yeah. No one can argue with that. All right.
So what's up, man? How's it going?
Pretty good. Played some D&D this past weekend for the first time in a while, and I'm DMing tomorrow for the first time in a while.
You wanna enlighten us on your playing?
Oh yeah, the playing was a lot of fun. We had gotten, I think I mentioned it a while ago, we had gotten lots of different plot hooks, but basically it led us towards you need to go out to sea and like pursue this pirate who we named. We got to name him, which was fun because he was like, "What was this pirate's name?" And we settled on Elonius Musk, and his ship is named the Tesla, and he sucks, and his workers really hate him. And we really stuck it to that emerald air titan of industry. But it was
did they not mutiny the crew?
There's been a lot of mutinies. That's actually Kate's character's backstory. Is she was on this guy's ship and like unionized the labor, like led a mutiny because he was such a piece of shit.
That's a fun backstory.
But the fun thing was, we had Rick brought out this map, and it was like the 4 levels of a ship, and there was like a ship battle. We got boarded by like merfolk and like a merman troll, and they had like a water elemental, and they were riding crabs, and so we had to like fight on different levels. It was our first combat since hitting level 6, so I got to summon my direwolf. My hellhound, his name's Chartreuse. I made a character sheet for him. It just says stuff like, all his it's like Bond's traits are like, oh, ruff, bark.
Nice.
Yeah, his equipment is a very nice collar. And also I wrote like in the traits, I wrote like the rules of how it actually works, and he has like health and stats and stuff.
Right.
But I might post some pics of that along with this episode.
You better.
All right. I might give them to you so that you can post them on the Instagram.
All right. We gotta add to your list of documents outstanding.
Yeah. All right. Right. I wanted to give you the sheets.
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah.
And
by now you will have.
I love making a podcast with a 1 month buffer.
I love messing with time.
Yeah. It's very arrogant of us to assume that we will remember.
That's the magic of editing. Yeah. We'll just cut it out.
Yeah.
So, what about your DM game?
Oh, okay. So we're playing tomorrow. It's the first time in like a month or like 6 weeks even. We've made most of these episodes since I've actually DM'd the last time, and it's really like maybe not a chip on my shoulder, but it's definitely made me like want to come into things better.
You got blue balls.
Yeah, a little bit. I've got all these ideas. So I realized I was looking over like the last 5 or 6 sessions, and I was like, they've been doing a lot of my puzzles keep coming down to here's an interesting monster to fight, but I kind of want to give them something that's different. I realized when we left off, I was like, okay, I was about to throw them at another monster or another enemy.
We're under attack.
It sounded like the door was going to open, which is creepy because it's
an
empty
building. Well, it's not
like,
super empty.
It's pretty empty.
It's the owner of the mix board. This is exactly what I feared.
There was a. Do
you want me to go check it out?
No, I mean, I think it was just the door settling.
Well, I do have my javelin, so we're safe.
Okay, good. Well, okay, so the last time I kind of wanted to kick this around with you if you have a second.
Right.
Are you doing anything right now?
You were facing your guys. No, I am actually answering emails.
Okay.
But no, you were faced with the prospect of sending a monster at your foe, at your team. But you just done that.
Yeah, there was a guy, and they had gone back in time to get like an artifact of power, and a guy that they had already killed like showed up again to and seized it. Then I was like, okay, this is like the fourth time I've had them fight like a big fight in like 5 sessions. I kind of want
right.
I was thinking
breaking things up.
Yeah, and they keep fighting this. I've established this guy as like a very detestable villain, but I was thinking maybe they could like because like the artifact is magical, maybe it like does something. Like they I kind of wanted them to like go in a dungeon.
Right.
But I had set things up for a fight, so I was like, well, what if this guy is just a dungeon now?
Mm-hmm.
What if he's like a dungeon man that they have to go inside and like he's been roboticized, maybe they can fix him from the inside or something.
Right. Well, like what is that movie? Brave. It was like a journey. No, not
the Fantastic Voyage.
Yeah.
Where they go inside the body.
So it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, like Majin Buu.
Oh yeah, it is like Majin Buu.
People don't like that part, but I love that. Was one of my favorite parts.
Majin Buu is like one of the best parts of the show because it's what they brought him back. They brought back Toriyama because he wanted to end after the Cell Saga, and they were like, "No, you have to please keep doing more." He was like, "Fine." This time the villain is a big pink ball of bubblegum, and Gohan gets a sword. And the way he gets the sword is he has to watch an old man read comics for 30 episodes.
And that's what happens.
And I think that old man was supposed to be Akira Toriyama. I think that's because he didn't want to be making Dragon Ball Z anymore.
That actually explains a lot from that season. That didn't make sense.
Yeah, he's like, oh, and Vegeta's evil now for no reason and kills a bunch of people. It's like the whole thing was like, I'm tired of doing this.
Right.
And everything is very absurd, even more than it was before, like the fusion dance and everything.
Yeah. I gotcha. We were under attack, it turns out, if we don't edit that out.
Oh.
So in terms of doing your dungeon, so does it make sense for it to be like a roboticized version?
Yeah, because he's a roboticized character. I was thinking like maybe something can happen with the magic where they like go into like inside him.
Right.
Maybe like he shrinks them down or tries to absorb them, and like something goes wrong, or it's a chaos. He has a chaos emerald, so like anything can really happen. It's artifact of infinite possibilities.
For
whatever.
you normies, it's like an infinity stone.
It is. It's basically an infinity stone, which means like you can do whatever.
For you normies, it's basically like a Bible.
It's not like
Does the Bible.
These are. I don't even think. I think
the
like
Bible is the Christian philosopher's
God, that is
stone,
wild,
right?
huh? That like Avenger, like an Infinity Stone, is more normie than the Bible now.
No.
Like somebody who reads the Bible every day is definitely weirder these days than somebody who has seen an Infinity Stone.
Sure.
And like represented in media.
Classic. Well, let's change that trend. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, let's bring back. Got to give it up for my man JC.
Put the G back in D&D.
Dumb.
Well, what about the J? That's all of a sudden smart. So okay. Well, so we're going inside of a robot. I mean, that sounds great. Let's start with. Normally you start with, are we going in for a pore or a cut or the ear, and you go from there. But so you could go if you want to go into like the vent system or.
I guess like a robot would be good. I guess like I was picturing them like going through his mind.
Right, that's
like,
another trope.
Is like and like it's pretty straightforward, but it's like, like trying to fix him, like trying to like get at like
his mind palace.
Yeah, because if he's got the stone and he's controlling it, maybe they're able to like convince him that he shouldn't be a bad guy anymore.
Oh, so it's Inception.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah. Oh, it could be that is the way to do it.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be Inception, but on some level it's Inception the way you describe it.
No, I think I'm going to do Inception straight up. Like they have to keep getting deeper in dreams. They did that on a Steven Universe recently. It was really good.
They did it on that was great. They
Single
did it
Pale
in
Rose.
Rick and Morty kind of with Terry. What was that guy's name? Scary Terry.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
That was kind of interesting. But yeah, the idea. So no, but I mean, if you're going through his mindscape, and it's his mindscape in the sense that like you want memories or some sort of stuff like mental constructs to be part of it, then that's a very straightforward window dressing for that.
I think like he could die at the end. Maybe he's not healed. Maybe he just is like comes close enough to like self-destruct or something.
Right, or just change his core directive or something. I don't know.
Yeah, no. I think like because the deal I did with the roboticization is like it copies the combat useful aspects of your personality.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy was like a big jerk, and like whenever he got roboticized, and like that meant that he's like a general in the army because he's like he doesn't like people.
Right.
He's like arrogant, so he like I don't know. Like another guy was just like very aggressive. And it captured like those parts of him, and but like all of the good people who were getting like roboticized just turned into like nasty shambling hulks because there was no part of them that could become like an evil robot.
Right.
There was just nothing to use. So
there was nothing. So, but what do you conceptually? I get it, but how do you make? What are like handles and knobs and stuff that you're gonna like in terms? Because I don't know. I've actually tried similar to things to this, and it comes out pretty wishy-washy. I'm sure that it depends on the group and stuff. So a better group can make more out of it. But
I think maybe there's an actual encounter where they just fight his dark self at the end, in the beginning, like in the deepest part of his brain.
Sure.
They like defend, like it's like a fight between his good and his bad self, and his bad self is just kicking his good self's ass.
Right.
Like maybe it's at the core of some kind of like like the apex of some kind of pyramid or ziggurat.
Maybe he's riding a motorcycle.
Yeah, a motorcycle just went past.
Yeah. He could be though, because he's the dark side.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a cool thing. I'm just trying to think of like you can go through various moments. I mean, of his memory could be like in like the same way you have rooms of a dungeon. They'd be like rooms from his past, and then the puzzles are more character-driven evidence and character-driven clues, but they still interact like puzzles and clues and hints and locks and keys.
Maybe like a 3-beat thing.
Right.
3 moments from his life where they can like change the memory or whatever.
Yes.
Or change his feelings about it at least.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't, even that's conceptual, but that seems closer to something actionable. But like I definitely like that area. I've seen like, I don't know, there's a thing where you got to go into a wizard's mind and collect old memories, but then like, I don't remember it that like elaborated further, like how to actually execute on that.
You know who did a bad job of it? Dragon Age. The Fade. That whole thing.
I know a little bit of that, but when I started to play it, I was like, this lore, it's just all this words I don't understand.
It's a lot. It's a lot of fantasy speak being.
It's not resonant.
Yeah, I always think you gotta, if you're establishing a fantasy universe, start with something people understand.
Resonance.
And then introduce new concepts a piece at a time. It's
use
like,
piggybacking.
Yeah, people always forget that like they didn't. There was magic in the first 10 minutes of Game of Thrones, and then you didn't see magic again until the last scene of the first season.
Right.
You needed a whole season to get people used to the idea of just caring about fantasy characters.
Fantasy stakes.
Yeah, before you threw in, like, also there's magic.
Right, because magic's kind of changes the stakes.
Yeah.
If you can just bring people back to life.
Yeah.
But,
they never did that on Game of Thrones.
By the time you did that, it didn't seem like the be all end all that it seems like on paper.
Yeah, because we had gotten used to a character. There was like another character who kept coming back to life, but they also established it's like this isn't good for this guy.
Right.
All right.
It's good. I mean, I really loved. I always feel like they could have had more magic in Game of Thrones, which is an opinion that people will hate me for. But I also really do like how the magic felt very fantasy and very Dungeons and Dragons-y, but also felt very in universe and not bumping with the world.
Yeah,
in
it's
any sense.
what you call it, low fantasy.
Yeah, low fantasy.
It's low fantasy at war with high fantasy. Is kind of the series.
Right.
Like the Valyrians were high fantasy, and now it's a low fantasy world because the magic is on. We're just talking about Game of Thrones at this point.
We love it. So, well, hopefully that gives you some ideas for what to do.
Yeah. I was the one with the advice this time who needed it.
Yeah.
Thank you for your help.
So let's. Do you wanna help me practice my Spanish homework?
Yes, with Helga Cruciform.
Oh,
wait,
I
is
wish
that
I
not what
could
we're gonna
speak
do?
it in Spanish.
Yeah. Okay.
So just to structurally, this is a segment where we riff a bunch of names. Sometimes as a DM, you riff names, so we're going to do that. You can practice with us. Send us your names.
Yeah, we
at
got
Master
some good,
Manual Pod.
Yeah, we got some good ones. But let's you know what, we've had some high concept stuff the last couple. Let's just keep it simple. You know what we could use? Do you have some music for us? Maybe?
You know that I'm sitting right next to some music.
Oh shit!
You know what I'm saying?
Why don't you reach over and put a hand on that musical thigh?
Well, let's see how this. We should have sound tested this, but
It'll be fun.
it's certainly happening. Can you hear it on your headphones?
Yes. So let's riff some names. Wait.
Do you want to go? Well, don't get in the weeds of determining whether or not you can hear it. Let's
I'm
just
not.
go
I'm
with it.
I'm just feeling this beat.
All right. Thomas Mann,
Lusicog the Great,
Terry Cletus,
Devin Ravenborn,
Miranda Queen.
Miranda Harmon. That's just my friend.
She's kind of my friend too.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I don't know. Maybe she'd be insulted by me
No,
saying that.
she's anytime I mention you, she says you're great.
Oh, well, that doesn't mean we're friends.
No, but you could be.
I'd be glad to count her as a friend.
Okay.
Counter the friend.
Devin the Flipster. I did Devin again.
I was going to say, but okay.
Let's see you know what? I'm going to read a couple from the Twitter account.
Fool Marv.
Dimplar McMallard from Basil Leave on Twitter. That's really good.
Dimple McMallard?
Dimplar McMallard.
Okay.
Some kind of dwarf duck farmer. Is what they said. Dandelion Ironheart from Yves TM. Dale Earnhardt from another person. Nicholas Frank Fell, whose name is also good.
What about Perez Del Huiz?
I'd vote for them for president.
Del Huizident.
Done.
All right.
Done.
It'll be this. No, wait. I'm going to increase the tempo because we're going to do a lightning round.
Okay. Hold
right.
it closer to the mic.
Seven the Seven. Bad.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Bonus the Grapes.
Winford the Intoxicating.
Halifax the Horse. No, that's Shadowfax.
Halifax
Halifax counts them.
is a Canadian city.
Oh no, I know it. It's a thing.
Oh right. A can of Dr. Pepper.
Oh yeah, you're
Roland McDice.
that's a penalty.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'll take a -2 to con on that.
Philodust Buster.
God, the music makes it so much harder.
Yeah, man.
No, but this is how it is in that fast-paced razzle dazzle. Razzle dazzle. I think I've done that.
Yep. Let's go. Last round. This
Okay.
is the final. Go for it. Just go for it. You can take your time.
Sora Kingdom Hearts.
You can take your time.
Sora Kingdom Hearts.
All right. Peasant the Pheasant.
Okay. Well, that was a poor showing. But you know what? All of those characters have the potential to be your favorite characters. I'm going to read some from the thing.
Helga Cruciform takes many forms.
Spoonica Sporkful from Let me see. This is Doop-de-doo. God bless
That's a
you.
good name.
Julius Caesar. Well, thank you, Extinct Spaceman.
Might be taken.
Snasm Bimbletoe. Achilles Healy. I like that one.
Achilles.
Achilles Healy. Your name is better than the name you suggested.
Yeah, sorry.
Rumatussin Knights.
That's great. I love that.
From Dan Rim. And again, the name better. No, I like them.
They're both good.
Wreath Wizardpool from, again, Extinct Spaceman. Right? Tearing up the tracks.
Yeah, if you're not Extinct Spaceman, you're not doing as good as Extinct Spaceman.
And finally, Regnad Nilknarf from Squanch Me.
I like that one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was Helga Cruciform.
Nobody can say that we didn't play Helga Cruciform.
If you think you can do better, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really what this is about. This is like when they would play Major League, they would let kids play with like Major League Baseball players.
Yeah. We're trying to teach you not to listen to us.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, how about a question?
All right. Sounds good. You pulling up a question?
Yeah, I got them on here on my cellular.
I've been going to Fogo de Chao lately.
Okay. Well, I have the perfect question then. This comes from Oliver Brandon on Twitter. Master Manual Pod, what can I do to help indecisive players? Sometimes they spend 5 minutes debating trivial decisions.
Yeah. Well, do you have any immediate first thoughts?
If they're spending 5 minutes, then, I mean, if they're frustrated and bored the entire time, then like, yeah, move them along. But if they're, I don't know. I think there are a lot of solutions here. One is like, don't let them, like, these conversations are not happening in bullet time. If they spend 5 minutes making a decision, something else happens.
Yeah.
Like if it's like somebody who like doesn't know everything about how their character works, like don't be a bully. Like don't be like hurry up,
right?
Because that can really alienate people. And
yeah, well, let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say well, first of all, it is important to make sure that you aren't stomping on your players' toes, but at the same time, if you are giving them that credibility,
yeah, and this is more like other people having this problem,
right?
This is the thing. This is the thing you want to make sure you're not doing.
We want to deal with it.
But the thing is, you can, if they're talking about whether they want to go through this door or that door, and they're talking about it at length, have a little random encounter, ready to happen that comes through one of the doors. Like if they're in a dungeon that has monsters in it, and you've got an encounter for another room. Have like a kobold open the door, see them, and run away, like raising an alarm.
Right. So that boils down to toss something at them, I would say, if I could summarize. Which is a good move. I would, Adam Goldberg, enemy of the show.
He's not enemy of our show yet.
Yeah, no, I like to think he is.
If we want to topple Harmontown, we're gonna need him knife at the throat.
No, it'll be good. He champions a system called Dungeon World, which I think is powered by the Apocalypse, and it emphasizes a system that I think is move based, including on the half of the DM. So the DM is doing moves, but I would say if you want to read up on that system, I think it talks about basically exactly this problem because it gives the DM a number of tools explicitly to handle situations where things are kind of stalling or spinning out.
Yeah, sort of light a fire mechanics.
There's specifically like there's raise the stakes, so that's like, someone pulls a gun or takes someone hostage. There's like light a fire under their ass, which is just like make it more urgent than it was, just in terms like, which is similar maybe.
Oh, is that literally a thing from it? Light a fire?
I don't know if it's from that, but it's just like but there's these moves and toss a complication at them, which is just like now there's a hole in the boat, so there's but it breaks it down into ways that are better than I could do. So if you want to some suggested reading, is check that out because it's right exactly in the pocket of what you're talking about. But that comes down to kind of throw something at them.
Think about good. This is a good example of a different thing. Think about good episodes of TV shows. So let's say, for example, an episode of Lost where some characters get trapped in a cave-in. Now, everybody's working to dig them out, but those aren't great stakes. So also they're running out of air,
right?
Because otherwise there's no, you need, it's like, what the thing is like, well, what happens if they don't?
Yeah.
Like if they're sitting here arguing, what happens if they don't come to a quick conclusion? A guard finds them. They run out of air. Somebody's got. You did this one time. No, it was in that the skeleton triumvirate, and like
sure,
there was the thing you named after a Magic the Gathering.
Tormod Tor.
Yeah. So like Jeff tries to cut his chain. All of a sudden, that chain is now a fuse that is going to burn out his soul. So now there's a 10-minute timer.
That, I'm pretty sure, is a direct rip-off from Bleach. I think there's
a
point in Bleach. I'm not saying that that's not why I did that. I think
that's
it probably was.
Why they did it in Bleach.
But I think Ichigo, he has like a soul chain and he breaks it and they're like, you'll die now. And you gotta handle this before the soul chain burns up. So I think there's like a direct rip.
But it's like that answers the question of why don't they just break the chain?
Right.
And like what happens if they don't do anything?
Yeah. So in storytelling, I would say like a lot of the structural stuff you'll read talks about you want to heighten and change the story. Like if you think of it like a graph that just proceeds in a linear fashion, it's like you start at the beginning and at the end you have a boss fight or whatever. That's a very linear story. But if it's like, oh, we did so well and then we got it all taken away from us, and then we had the boss at the brink of defeat, and then like 2 of our people died and we had to resurrect them and we were all destroyed. Like that, it's like very spiky on a chart. It's not like a straight linear line. And you want to kind of do stuff like that. And complications add to the stakes. And they kind of, so yeah, whatever. I feel like we might be getting, what was the original question?
What do you do if they spend too long figuring out what to do?
Right. So that's maybe a maximalist approach. What you said is not being in bullet time is just make consequences for wasting time and not being decisive. Yeah. So depending on the people, the DM guide often puts designate a party leader, which might help in this situation just because it's not back and forth. It's like, hey guys, I'm the leader, and that's part of the role play, because in the group, one of the persons is like, hey, I'm being the leader. My character is being bossy right now.
I heard a great piece of advice one time, and this is kind of related to a later question we have. But it's if every player who knows what they want to do when it gets to be their turn, you just get a +1 to your rolls.
Right, that's
not
an awesome
your damage,
move.
but like your D20 rolls.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it's so minor, but you want that like you start being like, well, I want that, so I get my +1.
Yeah.
So you're like ready to do it.
You're incentivizing behavior.
Yeah.
In the Exalted system, they have what's called a stunt system, where if you say, I hit him with my axe, that's not a stunt. But if you say like, oh, I flex and bring my axe down upon his goblin skull with the might of my forefathers, that might be a stunt +1. But you can have the potential to do a stunt +3, and like a +3 modifier is maybe in D&D terms something like a +6. So it's like it's a substantial boost, but it just comes from interacting in a storytelling narrative role playing way better. And so you'll find that incentivizing behavior is a really effective way to incentivize it.
Yeah, so +1. You know what?
You should do that.
Yeah,
everyone should do that.
If they know what they're going to do, +1.
+1. Why not? Fucking, it's a game.
This is really good if you have 4 or 5 people at the table, because it keeps people. Because ideally, people should be thinking about what they're going to do on their turn when it's not their turn, but they don't.
And they should, and I don't know why they don't, and I wish I knew why.
Sometimes it's hard to think about what you're going to do on your turn and pay attention to what's happening.
That's what I'm
So
told.
that's the generous read.
Sure, yeah.
The easier read
Let's be optimistic.
Sometimes your
smart.
phone is more interesting than what's happening at the table.
So
God, I bet D&D was easier to keep their attention before phones.
So is life, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like a serious existential problem facing us now that we're going to walk off that cliff at some point.
Yeah, well, we got to hash it out right now.
It's bad news. So get off the phone.
No.
So what was the question we were just answering?
It was from Oliver Brandon.
So
Brandon
it's the
Oliver,
same one. Okay.
Who said, "What can I do to help indecisive players?"
Well, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, incentivize them having it done, or throw a goblin at them.
Yeah, you can let someone lead. And consequences. I feel like there's got to be another. You could also railroad them.
Yeah, that was like 3 answers. I feel like the Brandon really got.
I just have hanging thoughts is all, and it was a railroading. Just railroad them. I don't recommend that, but it is an answer to that problem.
All right, do you want to do one more, or should we break?
I railroad the Harmon Quest gang because they do not have forward momentum.
Well, also, you kind of have to. It's a narrative.
Yeah,
that's a
different scope.
That's a damn TV show.
Also on the podcast, though, we do that at this point. Not in the episodes you're in, but I mean, not like railroad. They still do stuff. Don't get me wrong. I mean, yeah, whatever. I don't railroad. I'm gonna cut this off.
I think to a certain extent, any D&D that you're making for a show, an audience starts
Sure.
to have another obligation to entertain, which isn't just let the players argue about what they're going to do for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, what do you think? You want to take a break?
Yeah, let's take a break.
Actually, we shouldn't take a break because we got to play Loot Table
Oh, okay, we're going to do that first?
or Brute Fable.
All right, let's do it.
Here's a segment that we like to do. It's called Loot Table or Brute Fable. What's going to happen? We're going to roll a dice. Then we're going to roll what's called, we're going to throw, I suppose, the curveball. At the moment, our curveball is the tarot card. So we're going to roll the D6, and then we're going to pull a tarot card. And then using the results, we're going to come up with some sort of thing, either a brute or some loot or spoot.
A poot. Okay, well, okay. I already looked at it. I'm going to have to go first, even if I went first last time, because I just drew my own personal tarot
All right,
card.
well, you got to roll first.
All right.
He's already cheating.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. So that's a humanoid, a human-like monster. Yeah. This could be like a villain, like a named villain, like the King of Orlando, or it could just be like, a doppelganger level monster.
Okay, I got that, and I also got the King of Cups. So this is sidebar. This is my personal tarot. This is actually like a tattoo I'm going to get on my right arm.
Yes,
very
King.
soon. He's my favorite. I've drawn it from tarot decks a lot, and I associate it with a bunch. Its things are compassion, control, and balance. A man whose greatest quality is his ability to control, balance, and master his emotions. He's not empty of feelings, but rather full of them. Only he understands them, and where they are appropriate and beneficial, and when they are harmful. He is a man of compassion, diplomacy, and generosity. Boy, it sure sounds like I'm sucking myself off when I just
it's not a very balanced one.
Well, it's all about
at least
it's literally
compassion,
control, and balance. It means like
no, I mean it's not balanced, positive, negative.
No, it's good. It's a good card.
Right.
The kings tend to be good.
That one's broken.
Yeah, it is. Okay. So
nerf King of Cups.
So as an NPC, I'm gonna say this is some sort of, I guess with NPC I always want to make them. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna say this is a high priest of Kelemvor. Mm-hmm. This is a
what is that for the folks at home?
Oh yeah, Kelemvor is the D&D god of death. It's there are a lot of gods of death, but this is the god that you go to if you don't have a god. Mm-hmm. And he's all about balance. He's all about if you don't have a god, then this is the afterlife you go to, where they just straight up weigh your deeds, good and bad, and you go to like a good or bad afterlife based on that.
Good, I like that.
So he's the neutral. He's the lawful neutral god. He's like the only one.
Right.
Well, there's others, but he's the main one.
He's a regular Saint Cuthbert.
I played a character who was a monk of Kelemvor.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a lot of fun.
So what's the brute fable?
Okay, so this is a high priest of Kelemvor. He's fixated on balance, and that means strict balance between good and evil, which means that if there's a lawful tyrant, if there's an evil tyrant who's taken over a land and he's just corrupting everything, then this guy would come in and try to disrupt that. But if there's a good king and there's no evil in the land, this guy might come in and try to raise hellhounds or something, or just to keep things in balance.
So he's Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah, I guess.
He knew there's more Jedis, right?
I don't know.
Let's bring balance.
Dumb.
It's there's too many humans. I guess that's Thanos' thing. But that
was so dumb.
Okay, sorry. Back to your thing.
Because it's light and dark. But yeah, this is a guy who I'm going to say his name is the Bray King Even. That sucks. He's the Even King. He's a high, or I guess I said he was a monk. What was he like?
You can change. It's
the
fine.
NPC, the ones with the NPCs. It's hard because
this can be a monster. It doesn't have to be a human, but so you can heighten this into.
Okay, can it be a skeleton?
Yeah.
Okay, he's like an undead skeleton monk who was a priest of Kelemvor, but did some sort of ritual that keeps him bound to the mortal plane because he wants to keep serving He's like, well, everybody dies, and that's part of his religion.
Right.
But then he realized that was unbalanced. If everybody dies, then somebody has to be undead.
He didn't make a deal with the devil. He made a compromise with an unforgiving cosmos.
Yeah, that's I love that was a really good line. That was like a line from a television program.
No.
I liked it.
That's
Okay.
coming soon.
Yeah, so he's a monk, and his deal is balance. He's like an arch monk.
Yeah, there's a magic card called Balance. It's super broken, and there's cards that are derivative of it. But it's like every permanent type, like the person with the most has to sacrifice down to the person with the least, so everyone has the same amount. And so sometimes it really screws you, and sometimes most of the time it's very powerful.
Yeah, because you'd use that and then you'd summon a bunch of other stuff.
Right, but the concept is it's such a commitment to balance that it's like, I'll take out this country and I'll take out my own city, because it's like, it's not about that, it's about fair.
Yeah,
And so that overdrive concept's always fun.
Yeah, so this I'm picturing like a skeleton in like monk robes with like a staff probably, and then he would just be so obsessed with balance that he would be going around like killing children,
Right,
and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's the positive,
or saving them.
Right.
If there were a plague, he'd be saving children. But if like it was like, oh, this is really healthy, he might just kill some.
Yeah.
Just to keep things.
I don't know if positive and negative energy is still in 5e, but like just the idea that it's like he has a sense of that and is just doing things that he thinks, or maybe truthfully will exchange that balance,
Yeah.
But it's like that doesn't really matter to the people whose lives are being affected.
Yeah, it's a sociopathic commitment to fairness.
Right.
Not goodness or evil, but just equilibrium, but he doesn't see that his own hand on the scale is like a very unbalanced thing.
Right, yeah, because if you zoom out enough, he's actually a big aberration of the cycle or something.
Yeah, he's just on a path of destruction and benevolence.
Well, that's cool. Sorry, I'm not trying to like get all up in your thing or nothing, but
no,
yeah.
I like it.
I dig it.
I'm gonna say he his name is Ribsy.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
I like it.
I'm worn out.
we are all cruciform. Our cruciform is bad.
Yeah, bad cruciform.
Yeah, bad cruciform. Okay, so should I go then?
Yeah.
All
you
right.
roll the
hit
d6,
this.
motherfucker. I'm gonna.
So that's a 5.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the thing where I draw.
A 5 is a
single card
cursed
for you.
item.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. That's a
You
magic
got
item.
the chariot reversed.
All right.
Themes are lack of control, lack of direction, and aggression.
Mm-hmm.
Being at the mercy of two opposing forces constantly battling for domination. There's a sense that you have lost control here, that you are not at the driver's seat, that you are a passive observer. You must begin to understand what is in your life that you cannot drive and what you cannot let go, and let what you cannot go. Okay.
All right. So that's like an amulet of externalized internalizations. That's a bad name. We'll go from there. But the concept is you wear it, and the kind of voices that are screaming inside your head, like guiding your actions. Let's say that like the id and the ego
and the superego.
The superego is kind of your
Podcast.
learning, right? Or is it the id and the superego?
The ego. Okay, the ego is the self.
Right.
That's the sense of self that is like the center.
And the superego is learned.
Well, the id is like your
Primal.
hunger and lust
That
and all
one I
that.
know.
Superego is like your socially ingrained sense of shame and right and wrong and all
Right.
that.
Cultural understanding. Okay, so let's just say your id and your ego are kind of personified
Id and superego. Sorry, I'm being pedantic.
I think it's id and ego
Oh,
based on your description.
Well, the simple things would be like id is base desire, superego is shame,
right?
and
But
the ego is just
is-
you.
Right.
Because the Freud's
I get what you're saying.
Freud's concept with it is that there had to be what he called a censor, like a line in the like somebody needs to be deciding between these two concepts.
Right. Yeah. So you're correct. Okay. So the superego and then the id become personified in the sense that when you are forced to take it, when you're like taking an action or making like a decision that has like moral weight or something, you roll a dice. No, let's say you flip a coin, and then if it's heads, it manifests as well. No, let's do
What if-
1d6, and then it's just it's it's id, superego, and ego. And then, like, you manifest as kind of like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde version of either the superego or the ego. So
You
either
do,
you're
or they
super,
manifest externally?
well,
you change into them?
You kind of Hulk out into you don't physically change, but it's kind of like you're doing a character actor thing of yourself.
That's fun. And then, like, you're driven towards doing those things?
Yeah, and you don't even know because it just seems like it's what you'd sell it as an ambulance of like assuredness, like never feel unconfident in your decisions again. And so when you're in that, you go into that mode, it's just you either snap into the most rational societal mode or the most base mode, and you kind of just go from there. And so that causes you problems because it's like, oh shit, I just ate this whole house or something. I don't know.
No, I like this. So what does the player do? Let's say I'm a player and I've picked this up, and now then it's like the dragon is like, give me the rest of your party as slaves and I will let you live.
I guess it depends on the consequences, but I think it would manifest as similar to the effects of a rage in terms of your lack of ability for higher thought and your restriction of actions that you can take are kind of motivated by the id kind of thing. In combat, it's a pretty straight analog.
Oh no, yeah, I like it. So like in combat, if you got the id one, it'd be like having a barbarian rage,
right?
But if you had the ego one, the superego, maybe it'd be like the sanctuary spell, where like you can't like for the id you do more damage, but you can't you have to do attacks. But for the sanctuary, for the superego part, you're protected, but you can't make attack actions.
Yeah, like you take a penalty to any, let's say, like attacks that draw an attack of opportunity or any melee attacks. So like if you're safe, you can like launch a missile attack without too much trouble because that seems like a safe, rational thing to do. But otherwise, you can't make attacks. You're in a sanctuary. But I also I think that you should I don't know, either have like a deflection bonus or haste or something, just to to kind of I don't know, be defensive or.
This is a pretty powerful item.
Oh yeah, this is very powerful, but it's also cursed.
Yeah, strong penalties, strong risk, high reward kind of.
I think it only works if you really Hulk out into it in ways that negatively affect your character interactions, which would be hard to roleplay. But I think that's that's the concept. It's it's not like this is based on, but there's an idea that I've seen in the magazines that's like a mask that it grants a wish, but the wish is like a perversion of your character's deep desire. So that concept is obviously like a heavy RP concept, but it still seems like it could be satisfying.
Yeah.
So this is maybe in that vein where it's not right for everyone necessarily, but what the Amulet of Assuredness. There it is.
I like it.
I don't, but I did it.
Well, how about the MU?
You late to dinner.
Okay, there you go. The emulate to dinner.
No, come on. We can't just do any pun that we think of.
Okay, we
don't have to get it. It's fine.
Tal is yes man.
Tal is yes man. This is what I mean by we don't have to do any pun. If you have a name, submit it to us.
Yeah, we'll go back on this.
We'll apologize.
Yeah, I apologize.
Oh, if you submit us a name, we'll apologize to you personally. How about that?
There we go.
So thank you so
much.
much.
Live in Burbank.
No, I mean, well, yeah. I'm not roping Cohen into this, but I will apologize to you personally, which means in person.
Yeah, it's right in the name.
Yep. So that was that segment. So now we're finally safe to go into our break.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry about all the hubbub. I know you've been waiting for the break all this time. So how often does this happen to you?
I don't know. What is it?
You're some sort of evil or just egotistical enemy or entity. You want to attract some sort of crazy following to do your bidding, but you don't have a cult.
My man, you have just described the last 10 years of my life.
That's why Rent-A-Cult exists. Rent-A-Cult puts the power in finding a cult into your hands.
Now I have a question. So what you're describing here is sort of a like a Fiverr, but you get like several hundred people.
It's like
instead of like one guy.
If it's like the Fiverr job was being a cultist, it's like 100er in the sense that it's like 20 of those.
But Spencer, I'm just a and, as much as I want to be an evil overlord, I'm just a regular guy. Can I afford to rent these hundreds of people?
It doesn't matter if you're Joe Schillinger or Vecna himself, or as poor as the poorest kobold, or as rich as a dragon's horde. You can afford Rent-A-Cult, and if you can't, we have our own low financing programs that they're good and people like them, and they definitely don't invoke any sort of demonic pacts or contracts to extract our value elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, what were you doing with your soul anyway, really?
Not using it as collateral for a demon deal.
It sounds like you've been living like a sucker when you could be living like
a cult
a bloodsucker.
Yeah.
Different kind of, you could,
a bloodsucker on the getting fat on society's underbelly.
Be the Strahd you want to see in the world.
And curse your enemies with a following that they'll have them cursing that they need a following of a cult.
Rent-A-Cult. They're a cult above the rest.
And we're back.
I sure did enjoy that suite of products.
And as always, if you want to go ahead and rate our advertising 5 stars.
Yeah, on that thing that
it tells the advertisers that we're doing our job. And some people say it's more valuable than buying products. I'm sure that's not true, but
yeah, we'll just use the code Master Manual Pod Cult.
Yeah,
at the at checkout.
We get $2 for every activation, so that's always helpful.
Yeah, we split it right down the middle, so you're supporting Spencer and I evenly, which hopefully is a draw for you.
After the show, we buy Snickers bars.
We buy one each, and we eat them in the dark while not looking at each other.
With a fork and a knife.
Spencer uses a fork and a knife. I eat it wrapper and all. I actually wrap it in a flour corn tortilla and just eat the whole thing.
Well, a Snickers is a meal, you see.
Mm-hmm. It satisfies. Okay. Do you want to hear a question?
Nah. Let's leave.
No. Okay.
Go for it.
This comes from Kevin Cumbridge. Hey, Spencer and Ethan.
Hey, what's up?
Ethan, I believe, is supposed to be me. My name is Cohen, but Kevin, thank you so much.
Well, we could call you Ethan. Let's try
that. Let's not. People I've heard that a lot. People
a lot?
Yeah, Cohen is kind of a weird name, and like Edenfield, I think they do their best.
Field.
I'm just glad this guy addressed me at all. Okay, long-time listener. Well,
I'd like you to not address Cohen.
Yeah, I think he's a long-time listener of you, perhaps.
Sure.
Yeah. How do you feel about incorporating real-world elements into the game world? Would you allow a cleric to be Catholic or Muslim? Or from the DM side, do you ever... Okay, this is the second question. I really like the first question.
Well, maybe he's a longtime fan of Ethan.
Oh, yeah.
That could be.
Ethan was the guy you tried to do this podcast with before, right?
Well, yeah, he turned out to be all right, yeah.
All right, so questions.
Yeah, I would. I mean, that's my shooting from the hip answer. It's like, it's just a entity. You don't have to, or it's just a god even. You don't have to interact with gods in your campaign necessarily, ever.
Yeah. And I mean, like, honest to God, I think...
like, and it exists.
I've delighted myself.
He really has.
I think this is a great idea. I think this is, if you have this is would especially be a fun inroad for somebody who is like, I don't think this is as much of a deal anymore, but if you had a friend who was like religious and they were like, I don't know, I've heard this is very sort of dated advice. I don't think this.
Sure, no, you could be a paladin of Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what Crusaders were.
Right.
That's what knights used to be. I mean, the idea of being a paladin of something that isn't Jesus is kind of a surprising. That's the D&D twist on the real world thing.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you could be like the Red Cross Knight. You know that dude?
No.
He kicked ass. He couldn't be killed because he had his faith protected him. He fought like dragons and the 7 deadly sins and all kinds of stuff.
That's how the health pack was invented. They turned his shield.
Yeah, that's what they did.
It's good. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I did a cleric who was like a cleric who worshipped measurements and numberology, and he was he worshipped a god called Archimedes, and it wasn't Archimedes like the historical figure, but it was just the concept of this kind of like enlightened classical like thinker or something just being personified into a god that cared about stuff.
This could also work if you wanted to be. I'm gonna chop and screw this a little bit. If you were a warlock and you wanted to make a pact with something that wasn't. I mean, this is sort of the whole warlock class is set up for this. It's like because like there's like one where you make a pact with like the Fae or whatever, or like some kind of weird tentacle god or
outer realm kind of things, far realms.
This could also work for a monk. If you were playing a monk, they could be a monk of like a religious order. If it got weird,
right.
I mean, I feel like cleric or paladin. Cleric is like seems like the natural fit for this. I can see how cleric would get a little weird because they have stuff like literally like speak with their god as one of their spells. So if you felt a little weird, like role playing Jehovah,
if people are gonna get offended, definitely,
definitely, because then they're setting themselves up. If they're like, well, I want to play as like a character who's like has this faith,
right?
You should have an open conversation with them, like show them the stats, like the spells, and be like, okay, if we go this route, you can still be like empowered by your faith. And you can have a very devout character, but we won't ever reach a situation where I am role-playing your God, who is the God of Abraham and Isaac.
Right. You just, because I would assume if someone's picking that option, they either want to lampoon it, in which case, you go as silly as people are comfortable with, or they kind of want to do it justice, in which case kind of integrate it as earnestly as people are comfortable with.
I would say that if it's their thing and they're doing it, that's cool. If they're doing it sincerely, I don't think this is a thing you need to talk about with the rest of the table. If they're doing it as a joke, maybe suggest a different joke.
Well, if it's bothering people.
Yeah, because
if it's not bothering anybody, well, I mean, maybe it's bothering you.
Well, it's also just kind of it's like
we should be telling people not to make offensive character choices in their personal time.
I would say I would recommend on a personal level, don't be funnier than a guy who is making Islamophobic jokes. But I don't think that is what. Is being asked.
Well, certainly, yeah. I wasn't thinking about that, but yeah, that's a good point.
My mind often goes to what's the worst way somebody could take this advice?
Right.
I try to. That's why I often give a lot of caveats.
Yeah. So maybe depict Muhammad.
You don't. Let's. Where are we going?
That answers that. No, I mean, this is just a weird question. I mean, it's not a weird question.
I've literally seen this.
I've never I've seen it so commonly. I never questioned it.
Yeah,
I never thought, why not?
The answer is yes. Totally let them do it. It's because then you're going to get some rich role play. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's fun to have something like you were talking about a monk order. A monk order could be Order of Richard Simmons, exercise class.
Yeah,
a bard can be a bard of Lady Gaga. And it doesn't have to. It just is a fun reference that gives your character an angle and a direction to move in.
And it's improv comedy bits, prompts basically, or role play prompts.
Well,
I mentioned that guy was a monk of Kellamvor. That's not a thing.
Sure.
Really. That's not a thing that I got from the book. I just looked at the list of gods.
Yeah.
I knew I was playing a monk and that I was a lawful neutral. I found a lawful neutral god, and that was just the one I liked best because he had scales and my guy was going to use a staff, so I thought it would be fun if he attached weights to his staff and they got heavier and heavier and they looked like scales.
Yeah, and so what happened is you had a character concept, you got a iconic idea that kind of you centered around, and then you just interpret it as you saw fit. And you can do the same with any guiding concept, including real-world inspirations.
Yeah. I mean, this is basically the entire Renaissance came from people role-playing God.
Yeah, they played D&D.
Yeah.
So hopefully that answers that question.
That's a good question.
We're running low on time. Do you want to maybe just go into AMLs?
We talked
Just because we're at an hour.
You really helped me at the beginning, so that ate up some time.
Oh yeah, we loved it.
All right.
And if you loved it, let us know. We'll maybe do that more or something. Just talk about like coming up with ideas. Who knows? But yeah, sorry to break format.
No, it's good.
It's good, and everyone loves it. Here we go with Aminals.
Alternate monster lore, baby.
I get the name wrong every time on this one.
It's okay. That's part of the charm.
No, it's bad, and it is part of the charm, and everyone loves us.
Okay, Amlinals.
Oh, we're so healthy.
This is the episode. This is the part of the show where we take an existing D&D monster or monster from, just history or mythology.
No history.
We take the famous the Kraken of the Potomac,
right?
And we chop and screw it a little bit. We pimp that monster. We make something new. We make we give it some kind of new backstory.
Slap a fresh coat of paint.
Yeah.
Throw some gills on there.
We tend to approach it on a lore level, but sometimes mechanically.
Sometimes paint.
Yeah. Okay. So I had one. I kind of wanted to dig into purple worms.
Purple worms are a traditionally powerful monster.
Yeah. So what are they normally?
Gargantuan, one of the larger creatures that exist. They're kind of like Tremors from the movie Tremors, just these giant worms that burst out of the ground, and it's like, holy shit, how do you even deal with that?
They're in the Underdark, right?
I think they come from the Underdark, but I think you generally encounter them. Well, no, you encounter them in the Underdark.
Yeah, because they like a lot of times, like the tunnels are like the tunnels of the Underdark are purple worm tunnels.
Mm-hmm.
So, the full disclosure, I've been fascinated with purple worms ever since one featured heavily in an Adventure Zone arc.
Right.
It was really cool. I recommend you, if you haven't heard of it.
Check out Adventure Zone. If you want to learn how to do D&D, definitely that's a resource you can lean on.
It's entertaining. It's a good way to get people into D&D. I think it is not unresponsible for some of the recent resurgence in D&D's popularity.
Yeah.
Okay. That and, the good stuff at Harmontown.
And, I heard that they were inspired by us, although I can't confirm or deny that.
Let's say yes.
That's just what I've heard.
Let's just take that one on the chin.
What I've heard.
All right.
So purple worms are giant worms. That's basically the thing they got going for them. They're a crazy hard monster. They have in the past had like acid spit or some sort of weird poisonous spit. In the 5e SRD that we were looking at, they primarily can swallow monsters whole. They have a very poisonous stinger that does absurd amounts of poison damage if it hits you, and it's the stinger of a large creature, so presumably being stung by it would almost be something like being impaled by a parking stanchion.
Yeah, it'd be like if a velvet ant just like bit you in half.
Yeah,
it's taking the neat thing about it is it takes like something that is basically innocuous in real life, which is just a worm, and it's like, what if this was huge? And it's like, well, worms have digestive acid. What if you took like a tiny worm and made it the size of like several buses?
Yeah, I feel like we were looking them up, but I feel like they used to do more stuff. They're challenge rating 15 as of 5e, according to what we were reading, which means that they probably lowered them in power. I don't know. Well, so how do you want to mess with it then? Those are mostly the tropes. They're giant worms.
Yeah. Okay. So
Tremors.
What if? Yeah. So I guess like maybe it might be fun to. Let's say that somebody plays, listen to the Adventure Zone. They want like a big, dangerous purple worm, and then they check out the player's gun. They're like, well, this isn't actually very dangerous.
I want something that's not a poison stinger.
Yeah. What's something that they can do that is... Okay, well, so basically, typically they stay in the Underdark, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what if they didn't?
I think, yeah. That's almost a baseline assumption that they might.
Yeah. Well, what if, like...
Expand on that.
Yeah, well, what if you're like exploring, like, what if you're just in a city and there's just tunnels, like through like perfect tunnels, like through the sides of buildings,
sure,
and stuff, like an architectural, like mega termite.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what about or just giant termites?
Well, how would it? Well, yeah,
that's pretty different. Okay,
I mean, I just like purple worms more.
Yeah, me too. Okay.
How do we stay? How does it? If it's going through buildings, wouldn't it be staying in the buildings? Like, why would it leave once it's punching through them, or where would it go at least?
I guess I'm thinking of like it would just go back underground. But it's not like that deep underground. It's not like this. Maybe like just put them in a different setting.
Yeah, well, just to put this out there, I've always had the trope of a giant worm that burrows through worlds, and it doesn't even know because, like, there's different strata in the dirt. It's just like, yeah, sometimes you're munching through space, sometimes you're munching through fire, sometimes you're munching through all these fairies and shit.
Well, here we go. Tell me about this. I love this.
I mean, this is more or less the same concept as the infinifish, because the infinifish was essentially more of like a oarfish or like an eel-like thing, and it kind of went through the dimensions. But I don't know. This is more of a magic trope, but I just like it as just a fantasy concept. It's just like one of the most big worms that you'd ever see. It like could swallow a town, maybe not a town, but it could swallow entire settlements without really paying attention. And when you see it, it's so grand that it almost looks just like, like a landscape change has occurred in your world. But it has no cognizance of it. It just kind of punches through, and then it goes through the boundary into the next plane. Or
these would be like much bigger than the worms that are.
Yeah, and I could size it down from that. Like,
let's keep like
it could go. I mean, you could split the difference either way.
I keep meaning to bring you. I have 2 copies of Dune, and I keep meaning to bring you a copy.
Right. Yeah. This is also. I mean, that's another thing that purple worms are probably inspired by anyway. I'm sure.
Yeah, the sandworms from Dune.
Yeah,
Dune is so good.
So, but I don't know. I just want to put that out there because that's one of those other ideas that just kicks around in my head a lot, and I like thinking about it. So, I'll put it out there.
Are you okay to commit it to this?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, so these are sort of these would be like world worms.
Yeah, World Worm 2.
Yeah, yeah, like a world worm. Like it burrows from.
That's too big to interact with, though, isn't it?
It doesn't have to be. What if you could? Okay. Check this out, because I feel like the only thing that kind of bummed me out about the infinifish is once they were in it, it felt like the only way they had to get out of it was to kill it.
Right.
And I almost felt like, okay, they killed its organs, but it's almost like it feels like it could have been like too big to kill.
Right.
Or it's like you killed it, but that doesn't really matter because it's too big to actually die.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it would take like the rest of infinite of time for its body to realize it was dead.
Yeah, yeah.
It would keep like reacting.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that could be a way you do it.
Yeah, you gotta like once you try and kill it, you realize that we gotta deal with this some other way.
I like the idea of okay, what if you could use it to get from plane to plane?
Right.
I mean that's kind of what happened in Harmontown, but like what if without killing it?
Mm-hmm.
Like what if you could like get in one part of its body and leave another part of its body and you'd be in a different plane?
Yeah.
Like there could be a guy whose whole deal is that he like travels by worm.
Right.
By worm gut.
Yeah, it could almost just be like a feature of the world more than like this phenomenon that has happened, like a boss that is approached or like a new threat that it could just be like, here's a world, here's a world. There's the ice, there's the big city, there's the shore, and there's the worm that has always been and will always be.
Encircles every because it would be that would be the thing. It's like it would be at the edge of every horizon.
Right.
If it's truly infinite, it would like surround the horizon.
And no one's seen really its beginning or end, but you can tell that it's moving and it's clearly a worm.
Yeah.
Like it has eyes every so often or something. So it's clearly a worm.
Yeah, like bristly hairs.
Mm-hmm. But it's just this thing that kind of like encircles the multiverse and connects it. And so maybe that's an analog for an astral plane.
Yeah, it's kind of because it's kind of like it's kind of like a worm version of the Wormgaar or whatever, the world serpent.
Sure.
It's the snake that encircles Midgar, and it's so big that it like lives in the future and the past and the present. I just love stuff that it's like it's so big it starts to like break down like your understanding of reality.
Right, and that's the thing. I don't know. It's just cool because the idea of shifting planes is an important part of fantasy and D&D specifically. But then the idea of something that's just like always in all these different ones, and also just doesn't give a fuck. Just not even because it's so immense and like has ways we couldn't understand. Just because it truly doesn't care. Like that's not something it would buy at a store because it's like I don't give a. I just want dirt. Like who cares?
Like and it's like and so much of your body like. Almost like you would never, because you'd never see the head, you would never be able to like engage with this thing,
right?
Like with its decision making part. You wouldn't even have like you assume it's a worm. You don't know what's at the head. It might just be like a one cohesive like ring, you know. But it's like you would always be seeing something that was following the rest of the body.
Yeah.
Which meant that it's like you would never be like able to confront this thing.
Right.
I like that. It's like you would always just be a thing that was passing through.
Yeah, it's like a living plane or something, like in the sense that it's a creature, but it's not meant to be a creature. It's meant to be almost like the space squids. It's more meant to be a location or a world building set piece.
What about what we could call it a Wormgaar?
Wormgaard?
Yeah.
Wormgaar?
Yeah, Wormgaar, the 10th plane.
Wormgaar, the 10th plane. I like it.
All right.
You can use Wormgaar, the 10th plane in your campaign. I don't know. I had an idea that I can't think of it. It's been on the tip of my brain's tongue this whole time, and I lost it. But it's purple worm related, and maybe one time we'll do purple worms again, and then it'll come out.
All right, I love it.
Or maybe I'll just cut all of that out.
So this was episode 9?
I hope so.
We're coming up on the end of our first season.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
Well, I'm excited.
Who knows what that'll mean?
Yeah. Stay tuned. You're going to have to come back to find out.
This is an episode of foreshadowing. Do you got any last minute business plugs, etc.?
I love our listeners. People have been super nice ever since we launched.
Yeah, thanks for being cool.
Every time I see somebody draw a piece of fan art or add us and tell us they like it or review it, it makes me really happy. It puts a spring in my step. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, I'm dead inside.
Yeah, but you're making me super happy. And
I like it, though. It's really nice. I am truly, I don't know. It feels more like we're helping people than we're just like,
sucking ourselves off.
Anyway, it's fun to be involved in. I'm proud to be involved in it.
I gush to Spencer all the time about how much I like our audience.
It makes me like you guys. No, not really. So thanks everybody for listening. I don't know. Maybe I should just, it's way too late at this point, but I'm the person who makes the music that we put into the show so far.
Oh, yeah.
Unless in the future we change that.
No, I think we should. I might tweet that out.
I make it, it's fine, don't worry about it. I make it on pocket operators, mostly a pocket operator arcade, so yeah, cool. There you go.
Well, could we hear some of that here in a second?
Not very well.
I was talking about the closing music.
Oh, yeah, that's then absolutely. In fact, here, let me crack my knuckles and pull out the piano. And you could follow me on Instagram. I'm at the Sixler on there.
I'm at Skull Mandible.
Master Manual Pod on all the socials. I like our Facebook page lately. Check out our Reddit.
Oh, I should check out our Facebook page.
Yeah, I just post occasionally. It's I don't know. I'm trying to bring most of my energy to the Instagram if I'm being honest, but the Facebook too.
People have been on the Reddit. They're nice.
Yeah. Get on that Reddit. See those nice people. I'm sorry if I'm there too much. Feel free to criticize us. We won't yell at you. That's not the
We'll take your criticism
Reddit.
well.
Yeah. So, because on the Harmontown Reddit, I do yell at people who criticize me. So I want to draw a distinction. I'm being more healthy. Yes. So yeah, thanks so much. Sorry, did I cut you off?
No, it's just funny that you weren't like, I'm going to stop yelling at people on the Harmontown Reddit.
No, of course not.
Instead, you created a second Reddit where you won't yell at people. I like that.
These people are better, and they won't engage in ways that require yelling to address. So I don't foresee that being a problem.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So just continue to be great people. I love you all.
Just don't be afraid of me. That's what I want. Thanks so much. We booked it again.
Looks like we booked it again.
It's all manual.
All right. Until we roll again. Bye.